Yes, you are live now. Anything you do can be seen. Is he started? Is he on? Since there's a color theme, am I right?
Yes.
It is on. We're watching live.
It's working.
Is he on YouTube?
Yeah.
Under Platt Memorial Chapel?
You have my own vote.
So if I could have where's your wife?
Yeah, there are other people on there. Especially me too. All right.
Oh, you can go down there, that's fine as well.
So we, in our service with Kriya, which means to tear, the ribbon attaches and lower those clothing and part of the clothing. Together we make the ribbons and bless the together in our hearts this time of loss, but withstanding, we do it together, which shows us that's how we move forward. So we'll make the bracha, the blessing together over the tearing and the last each year. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'dayan ha'emet.
Yeah.
Lord gives, Lord takes away, but still we thank God for all the years in between. Maybe see this.
That's the end.
And just as a friendly reminder, if you would turn off all your cell phones or put them on silent. Thanks.
Kerachem avabanim richam Adonai yireach. As a parent has compassion for her children, so may Adonai our God have compassion for all the family and friends, both near and far, of Barbara Feldman, who we come here to remember this day. God knows where we are fashioned. God remembers that we are but dust. Our days are like grass. We flourish in the flowers of the field. The wind passes over us, and we are no more. But we trust that Adonai's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children endures age after age, unchanging. We begin our service by reciting Psalms, thus linking Barbara's life to the Jewish people, to ancient tradition, into the eternity of God.
Shir Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzelecha, yarim yinecha. Umam hashemesh lo yakeka, v'yareach v'layla. Adonai yishmorcha v'korai, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeitcha v'moecha, me'ata ve'alula.
I lift my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? This is a question the psalmist asked thousands of years ago, perhaps at a time of sorrow like this one. And here was his answer. My help will come from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, for your garden will not slumber. For the garden of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection and guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from harm and guard your soul. For Adonai guards your going out and coming in, now and forever. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai roi lo echsa. Bino desha yarbitzeni al mei minuchotina haleini. Nafshi shover b'yancheni b'maglei tzedek l'man shemo. Gam ki elech b'gei salmavet, lo ira ra ki ata imati. Shivtecha mishantecha hemei nachamuni. Haroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Dishanta b'Hashem en roshi kosi revaya. Achta b'chesed yudifuni koyme chayai. V'shagru beit Adonai leorech yamim. Those are the Hebrew words of Psalm 23, also known as the Shepherd's Psalm, a psalm that seeks to bring us comfort at difficult moments like this one. Let's recite it together in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In synagogue on Shabbat, we're currently reading from the book of Shemot, the second book of the Torah. But it's already the beginning of the book of Bereshit, Genesis, the very beginning of the Torah, that we learn that when a loved one passes away, it is members of the family who come forward to share memories and reflections. And that's what we'll be doing today, as first we'll hear from Lori, and then Rebecca and Sarah will come up, and then John will share a letter, and AJ, I think, will share a letter as well. Lori?
My mom's a force, not necessarily the product of mass and acceleration, F equals m dot A, but for anyone who knew her, you would understand the kind of special force she was. She did accelerate through life, graduating from high school at 16 moving from New York to Ann Arbor to begin her freshman year at the University of Michigan. Go Blue. She was happy to be independent and far away from home, only to have my grandparents move to Detroit just 1 year later. I'm not sure they trusted her to be so far away. She was young and, according to my father, shy, but she wanted to rush AE5, so he says he helped her get in. She majored in chemistry and physics, and as a woman was guided to enter the School of Education to become a teacher in the 2 subjects she loved. As with high school, she accelerated through her studies, and at the age of 19 got married, graduated from college, began student teaching, and became pregnant with my big brother Lee, all in the same year. She used to say some of her students at Bound Brook High School were younger than she was. 18 months later, I was born, and we settled into a new house in North Plainfield, next door to my father's sister and brother-in-law, their 4 sons, and down the street from my father's brother, his wife, and family, and several blocks away from my father's parents. She was outnumbered by the Feldman family. My mother was the first feminist I knew. When she insisted on wearing pants to school, as a teacher in the 60s, she was sent home, but in protest did it again and again. She was determined to break down barriers for women and campaigned eagerly for any candidates that stood for women's rights. She moved her teaching career to Plainfield High School for a more progressive environment and a place to inspire students from an underserved, predominantly Black community. It was at PHS where she was bitten by the urge to use her knowledge of physics and learn to fly airplanes. She went on to get a single, then twin engine rating, instrument and instructor's rating, and then finally a commercial rating. She brought the Civil Air Patrol to PHS and started a curriculum in aviation, inspiring indigent students to become future pilots, to serve in the Air Force and Navy, and pursue careers in aeronautics. Few of her students had posted. Miss Feldman gave me and many our first flying lessons. She would continue to be an inspiration to many of us from Plainfield High. Another student wrote, I know I speak for all the students at PHS, especially the Aerospace Club and those she taught and encouraged to fly, when I say that we really appreciate her life and efforts. We hope we have lived up to the standards she set for us. She had high standards for her students, and it was clear about these expectations. But for us, she was all about adventure. She wanted us to see the world, appreciate art and culture, and live up to our own expectations of ourselves. She didn't check our homework, ask for our grades, or help us determine our own career paths. She was the reason for our independence and self-determination. In the early 80s, she connected with the naval pilot and future astronaut, Charlie Bolden, who would later fly several times to the moon and under the Obama administration became the head of NASA. She developed this relationship while she was an applicant and eventual runner-up to the ill-fated Challenger Teacher in Space program through NASA. She really wanted to go, and right after the disaster, was even hoping that they would launch a second try, at which point she said, I would go tomorrow. Mom earned her rights as a NASA VIP and a privilege that she took advantage of, witnessing multiple launches from Cape Canaveral and introducing her eldest grandchild, Rebecca, the engineer, to NASA engineers. She was also a proud member of the 99s, an organization started by Amelia Earhart. The 99s is an international organization of licensed women pilots from 44 countries around the world. They're pilots who teach and pilots who fly for pleasure, pilots who are technicians and mechanics, but first and foremost, the 99s are women who love to fly. My mother was beautiful. Tall, always in shape, and impeccably dressed to the nines, as she would say. I always looked up to her, literally and figuratively. I wanted to look like her, but I always looked like I was wearing my mother's clothes for anything I borrowed, even as an adult. She was artistic, with classic taste, and sometimes reminded me of Jackie O, and sometimes of Barbara Feldman, if you remember Agent 99 from the TV show Get Smart. With all my mother's accolades, her ambitious career choices and adventures, she retired at the young age of 53 to engage in her most celebrated career, that of Grandma, Grammy, Graham Cracker, to her 4 grandchildren, Rebecca, Sarah, John, and AJ. She loved this role and created Grandma's Camp and made it her primary mission to expose this next generation to everything she cherished. The girls were attending ballets, full-length operas, symphony, and theater even before entering school. She and Pop-Pop, aka Popcorn, took the grandkids on many adventures to experience nature, science, and animals. She really wanted to take them flying with her, but we had to put our foot down somewhere. This was always a no-go. She must have sensed the need to retire early, because in 1994, when I got sick and later had to move to Texas for a bone marrow transplant at MD Anderson, she was quick to volunteer. Jonathan rented a house for the 3 of us, while the girls, Jody the nanny, my mother and father-in-law all moved in with Auntie Lane and her family. It was her next mission to keep me alive and entertained enough to get through the treatment. Despite the strict warning about not taking me into large crowds, she decided it was more fun for us to have fun and explore than be quarantined. Good lesson for today, actually. Well, maybe it was not so wise, but I am here because of her, or maybe despite her. When I was in the hospital, she and Sarah would take the opportunity to take the girls on adventures such as the San Antonio Riverwalk, SeaWorld, the Galveston Beach, and museums throughout Houston. The girls were only 3.5 and 2 years old at the time, but she made sure to make their time in Texas worthwhile. And of course, they visited the Kennedy Space Center in Houston. Among all the things that would make my mother proud, her alumni status at the University of Michigan was one of the most celebrated. Her legacy dream came true when her granddaughter Sarah decided to attend, and then met the love of her life, and now husband David, there. She was overjoyed to learn that David's family was filled with UMich alumni, more than even in our family. She stayed up to the wee hours, past 2 a.m. at the wedding, and just long enough to hear the victors play and experience the entire ballroom erupt in song, cheering, "Go Blue." My mother was high energy, sometimes exhausting, but always a force of nature, a force of investigation, a force of innovation, a force of creativity, and a force to be reckoned with. She appreciated good humor and would only want that in the end we could listen to great music and have a good belly laugh to a somewhat obscene joke, most likely said by her friend Minnie. We will always be grateful to all that she taught us and inspired us to do. I know, Mom, you're dancing around on the moon and looking down on all of us.
Rebecca, Sarah.
You gave us so much that defines us. At the young age of 53, after you had accomplished more than the average person does in a lifetime, Becca was born. You retired from teaching and acquired a new, arguably way more fun career. Full-time Grammy, aka Grandcracker.
This was a role that you embraced completely, and there was no time to waste. You and Papa took 18-month-old me to the Florida Keys. You taught me to ski almost before I could walk, and you're definitely the reason that Sarah and I were the only 2- and 3-year-olds who knew the words to every song of Oklahoma. Over the years, you've shared every passion, every hobby, and every experience with me and all your grandchildren.
You took John, AJ, Beck, and I to the aquarium, the Franklin Institute, and every science museum in the tri-state area. You made sure our lives were never boring. You took us on a Disney cruise for bat mitzvahs, made us wait in a 4-hour line for this country's scariest haunted house at the ripe ages of 5 and 7, and took us to the overnight at the zoo.
As we got older, we shared even more. You taught me to garden and proudly told me all about how you could change the color of the hydrangea blooms with the pH of the soil. And you gave me your beautiful Nikon camera when I became interested in photography.
We shared a complete love and obsession for animals that no one else quite understood. You took us to petting zoos, farms, and the aquarium. I remember whenever we drove with Grayling, your insanely evil cat, in your car, you put on classical music and opera because that's what she liked to listen to. And when I told you I was going to be a vet, you said that was your dream career and you wanted to come to school with me.
As though you didn't have enough careers already. You inspired me with your love of science, experimenting, and learning new things throughout your life. You were a pioneer for women in science and helped to create a world where I could pursue a PhD in engineering. When I started engineering school, you sat me down and you told me about our family heirloom, which you started this tradition right then on that day. You pulled out this slide rule right here, and you said that one day I would pass it on to my daughter, and then you proceeded to teach me how to use it. The gravity that you placed on teaching and the high expectations that you set for your students are things that I think about a lot as I contemplate my role as an educator.
Grandma, we share the best alma mater in the world. When I didn't get into my first choice college, I called you crying. And you said, "Screw them, Sarah. Go to Michigan. And you'll have the best 4 years of your life." And you're right. I did. And for those who don't know, this was my bridal shower present from my grandma for my wedding. You taught me how to make the world's best matzo balls.
You opened your lake house to us every summer for Grandma's camp and never let us miss a year of the Nutcracker in Philadelphia.
You came to every one of my dance recitals with flowers and red lipstick to give me a kiss mark on my cheek after the show.
You always had an exciting day planned, and you never let the night end without some Cherry Garcia ice cream.
You loved David like he was your grandson and walked down the aisle at our wedding in May.
And you loved Eric, even though you tanked his Uber rating one night after 4 months into us dating because you insisted that you knew a better route than the app. Grandma, there's no real way to sum up the impact that you had on our lives. You were intensely inquisitive, fiercely independent, uniquely brilliant, plus spontaneous, funny, and passionate. I'm never going to meet somebody quite like you again.
Grammy, I know you really wanted to go to space one day. And even though that didn't happen in your lifetime, I fully believe that's exactly where you are now. So since you're up there, Gram, please engrave, go moon, go blue, on the moon for me. I love you.
I love you, Grandma.
John, AJ.
This is a letter from Barbara Solomon, a dear friend of my grandmother's. It's hard for me to put into words my thoughts and memories of my dear friend Barbara. We were both Barbaras, but our family called us both Bobby. She was my childhood best friend. In the 1940s, we lived in the same apartment building in the Bronx, and we attended the same elementary school, PS 11. We were two peas in a pod and did everything together. Gert and Henry Gall were our neighbors, and Dr. Gall was our family physician. Gert was the sweetest, kindest, and loveliest lady. She was good friends with my mother. I remember when she was pregnant and gave birth to Barbara's baby brother, Stephen. We were not perfect angels, and were known to get into mischief together. Being very curious kids, I remember Barbara sneaking me into Henry's office to look at all the naked people in his medical books, although we never got caught. My family moved to our summer home in Long Beach when we were both in the 4th grade. We kept in touch by writing letters to each other regularly. A phone call to the Bronx at that time was considered long distance. During the summer, her camping at Camp Echo ended. My dad would pick her up in the Bronx and drive her to visit me in Long Beach for a few days. Growing up, Barbara was a star. She won many prizes and contests for her talents and scholarship. Whatever she pursued was done exceptionally well, achieving awards along the way. As a little girl, she won every badge in the Brownies and the Girl Scouts. She skipped out of PS 11 to attend a specialized junior school. She went on to graduate from the University of Michigan with honors. We remained friends throughout the years, always keeping abreast of our accomplishments. Our college life, then Barbara attending my wedding, births of our children, and all the things we had in common, including our teaching careers. Barbara taught me high school chemistry and physics. She then went on to become principal and superintendent of her school district.
I was so excited to hear that she was taking flying lessons and then became a licensed pilot. She was a member of the 99s, a women's pilot organization. Barbara always had a thirst for space and science. She was invited to witness a space launch at Cape Kennedy. It didn't matter that she had to go there alone, but was thrilled when she was able to take her granddaughter the next time. She was not only accomplished in every way, but was the proud mother of Lori and Lee. She always called to keep me up to date on how proud she was of granddaughters Rebecca and Sarah and grandsons AJ and John, and told me that she was a great grandma. A great love of hers was photography, and I always received many beautiful photographs. Sadly, I miss saying goodbye to my dear friend who I loved all my life. I will miss her marvelous and witty sense of humor. It was always fun to be with her. Rest in peace, my precious friend, Barbara. We would like to acknowledge the following people who unfortunately could not make it this afternoon. Her brother, Steve Gall, Cyril Maglione, Bobby Solomon, Tracy Wasserman, Jean and Bob Gibson, and all her former students, coworkers, friends, and relatives. Thank you.
Thank you to John and AJ for sharing that letter, and to Rebecca and Sarah and to Lori, sharing all those beautiful memories. And I do hope that it adds a little measure of comfort that the rabbi also went to the University of Michigan. And go blue. This week, the week that Barbara passed away, we celebrated the holiday of Purim. And on Monday night, we gathered to read the Megillah to hear the story of Esther and Mordecai's triumph over the wicked Haman. And as I got to know Barbara through the memories shared with me by her family, I couldn't help but think about another character in the Purim story, Vashti. Vashti is King Ahasuerus's first wife. In the opening chapter, he demands that she come and present herself before him and to all the men in the party. And Vashti does something incredible for a woman of her time. She says no. She refuses to come. And Vashti's refusal made her an icon for early feminists. Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote in 1878 that Vashti's decision was a first stand for women's rights, and that we shall stand amazed that there was a woman found at the head of the Persian Empire that dared to disobey the command of even a drunken monarch. And in our day, Rabbi Stephanie Ruskay agrees about Vashti as a feminist model and writes that Vashti was a woman with a strong voice who needs to find ways in which she can be heard. Barbara Feldman was a woman who followed in the tradition of Vashti. She was a strong feminist who didn't let the conventions of her day get in the way of what she wanted to accomplish. And there was much she did accomplish over the course of her very unique and extraordinary life. As Lori said, Barbara grew up in the Bronx with her brother Steve and her parents, Henry and Gertrude. Her father was a pediatrician and her mother an immigrant from England. She was very bright, and her parents and teachers did their best to try to keep challenging her. After graduating from Brooklyn's Methodist High School at 16, she went to Michigan at 19, and as Lori said, her parents came soon afterwards, perhaps to keep an eye on her. While at Michigan, Barbara was also a Michie Fish, a member of the synchronized swim team. And it was there she met Barton, and graduating at 19, married, pregnant, and moving to Plainfield, New Jersey, where Barton was from, and where Lee and Lori were born. Barbara taught chemistry at Banbrook High School, and like Vashti, she said no to the conventions for women of her time, determined to wear pants and to chart her own path. So we heard she went on to teach at Plainfield High School, and it was there that after she and Barton separated, she met Sira, who would become her longtime partner and eventually her husband. She became a pilot, working up her way to commercial rating, and started that incredible club, the Civic Air Patrol, at Plainfield High School as well, encouraging and inspiring countless students. And of course, there was her relationship with NASA. Being a pilot wasn't remarkable enough. She wanted to go to the moon. And while at NASA, she met Charlie Bolden, as Lori mentioned, but Charlie would go on to become the head of NASA under President Obama. And Barbara's friendship with him meant that she was a NASA VIP and also often got to attend NASA events and launches. And Rebecca recalled going with her grandma to one VIP launch. They got a tour and saw the launch pad for the SpaceX flight, she said, and also got to meet one of the astronauts. Vashti's refusal got her banished from the kingdom, but Barbara's persistence always paid off. After Plainfield High School, Barbara taught at Berkeley Heights, and there she also became the swim coach and took the swim team to the state championship. And after that, she decided to use her commercial rating to fly charter aircrafts. She flew executives from New York to the newly opened casinos in Atlantic City. The executives, who were almost always men, often mistook her for a flight attendant. She wasn't a fan of that and got tired of putting them in their places. So she went back to school to get an MA in education from Rutgers, would become the vice principal at Lakewood High School, and later the principal in Manville. What is clear from all this is that Barbara was a lifelong learner who was determined to chart her own course. And though this sometimes caused challenges, it also brought many fond memories. Lori said that her mom was a permissive parent who encouraged her kids to figure things out for themselves. And Lee agreed and recalled the time the family went skiing in Vermont, and the sun was very bright. His mom refused to wear sunscreen or sunglasses, and the next morning she woke up with a terrible sunburn. It was so bad that her eyes were swollen she could barely see the road for the 7-hour drive back. Lee recalled directing her along the way. "A little to the left, Mom, a little to the right." It was a miracle they made it, he said. And Lee also said that his mom drove a stick shift when women didn't drive stick shifts. He also said that his mom was meticulous about everything, especially her house. Barbara was very handy. She painted, changed doorknobs, and had a collection of tools that would make anyone jealous. When they went to sell her house, it went right away, and the home inspector couldn't even find a thing wrong with it. She kept it in such good condition. And Lori said that as her mom got older, she missed flying. So one day, she drove herself to Flying W Airport and filed a flight plan. She called Sarah to tell her she was going up, and Sarah said, "No, you are not." But she was determined determined to. The only thing that stopped her was that she couldn't physically get into the cockpit. Otherwise, she would have been in the air, everyone's sure. And Lori recalled when they had to make the difficult decision to take her car away, maybe so she wouldn't fly anymore. And a week later, Lee said he got a call from his mom's aide saying that the Honda dealer was coming to get her new car. Like Vashti, Barbara didn't like anyone telling her what to do. As Lori said, Barbara was especially helpful when she was going through her treatment. She moved out to Texas with her, did everything she could to support her and the family, Jonathan, Rebecca, and Sarah. And as we heard, Barbara also loved being a grandmother to Rebecca, Sarah, John, and AJ. She was a proud grandmother, too. And Sarah said that her grandma made it a full-time job. She went to everything, dance recitals, piano recitals, competitions. And Rebecca and Sarah also recalled Grandma's camp, which included a lake, a canoe, and projects. Peeling wallpaper, disassembling, then assembling chandeliers, all sorts of projects. And of course, Barbara was very proud when Sarah went to Michigan and became a Wolverine, a school she stayed connected to and attended her 60th reunion not so long ago. And even the other day, the family showed me that her ringtone was the Michigan fight song. Throughout her life, Barbara continued to be that devout feminist who loved to keep doing and learning. She was also a census worker. She took classes at the JCC, had season tickets to the opera, and often took her aides to the Kimmel Center for shows. She also had a good eye. She had exquisite taste, Lori said. And Barbara was also a good cook, especially her matzo ball soup and the turkey she made for Thanksgiving. I don't think Vashti knew how to do that. When I asked about lessons that Barbara taught, Rebecca began by saying that her grandma set an example as someone who was always herself and who didn't compromise her values. And Sarah added that her grandma taught her that if you want to do something, then just do it. And Lori added that her mom taught her to appreciate things you wouldn't necessarily appreciate. Show up for the opera, the symphony, and so on. Don't be afraid to try new things. And Jonathan added that Barbara wasn't afraid to stand up for herself and for those you love. And Jonathan also said that she was always very welcoming to him, and he really appreciated how she put aside her life to help out during Lori's treatment. Though Vashti disappears from the Megillah after the first chapter, her lessons and her legacy continue to live on for all of us. And the same can be said about Barbara Feldman. Though she is no longer physically with us, her story becomes a part of our story, part of the story of the Jewish people, and part of the story of each person who loved her. And that's how we know that her memory will always be for a blessing. We rise for a final prayer.
במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר בקיא הצירים את נשמת ברכה בת יחיד שחלומה בגן עדן דמנוחתה Hasireu seta kanaftecha le'olamim Utzror ha'chaim et nishmata Adonai hu nachalata V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava V'nomar amen
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Barbara Feldman, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful one, we ask our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. and let us say, Amen. I'll ask that you, for Lori and for Lee, who have the booklets, to please open them to Mourner's Kaddish, which we'll recite together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma dibra kirutei, ve'amlich mahutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, v'hagala v'bizman kariv imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach ve'elah omeol mayan. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei nekusha brichu. Na'ila mikol birchata v'shirata, tishvachata v'nechamata, damiran v'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. The God who brings peace to the heavens, bring peace to us here on earth, and we all say, Amen. You may be seated. As Shabbat is starting in a few hours, it's a short Shiva this afternoon. Beginning on Sunday, the family will be sitting Shiva, though given what's going on in our world, there'll be more information of that forthcoming.
Let me have all theirs, please. I'll ask you all rise once more, please. This concludes our services here today.